Across FPS titles, aim training has been a staple in establishing good aim at whatever game you're playing. Whether it be Valorant, Counter-Strike 2, Apex Legends, Warzone, which has like 4 mouse and keyboard players, including myself, smile, or any other FPS game for that matter. There's a pretty high chance that you, yes you, have spent some time in an aim trainer like AimLab or Kovacs. And in the pro scene, you have players spending thousands of hours within aim trainers to get that crazy aim you see live in tournaments. While some pro players barely have touched an aim trainer. And in today's video, we're gonna be specifically talking about aim training. Is aim training necessary to establish good aim at an FPS title? And now I'm going to show you 2 sets of clips in this video. One of these players has over 1,000 hours in AimLab, and the other person, less than 50. Now, after watching those clips, can you see which player has way more hours in an aim trainer than the other? And do you think spending thousands of hours in an aim trainer is necessary to establish good aim? Or is aim training just not necessary at all? Let's talk about it. Now, before I go any further, I just want to say a big thank you to Viscose for allowing me to use some of her clips in the introduction you just saw. Yes, she has over 1,000 hours in aim trainers, which correlates to why her aim looks so ridiculously clean. And I'll be linking her YouTube and her Twitter down in the description below. She uploads a lot of videos in the topic of aim training as well, so definitely recommend checking out her content because not only is she a credible source, but damn, she's actually really good at video games as well. And on the flip side of the coin, I do have less than 50 hours in aim trainers. Personally, I never thought aim training was necessary to establish good aim in FPS titles. I always just played the game and improved that way. And I would say my aim is above average for most in the mouse and keyboard community. I wouldn't say it's as good as Viscose's aim, but it's definitely up there, which got my head spinning. Do I really need to put hundreds or thousands of hours to establish good aim? Well, I reached out to a pretty well-known mouse and keyboard player just to see how many hours they had. I ended up reaching out to Huskers, who is by far one of the best, if not the best mouse and keyboard player on Warzone. I mean, the game sucks for mouse and keyboard, but still, his aim is ridiculous. And I simply asked him, how many hours do you have in aim trainers? And his reply might surprise you as much as it did to me. He only has about 2 hours in aim trainers. He's basically never used them, which further spun my head in circles. How does someone with that crazy of aim never aim train? I decided to do what any moral human would do when they had a question. I went to Twitter, and I basically asked the mouse and keyboard community what they thought about the whole topic. Is aim training necessary? And needless to say, a lot of you had a ton of stuff to say about aim training and whether or not it helped you personally. Now, this is just a sample of the replies. I had a lot of DMs covering this topic as well. So if you were one that reached out and gave me your input, I really do appreciate it. And before anyone asked, I would say the pool of replies ranges from casual mouse and keyboard players all the way up to the best of the best. So in today's video, I'm giving you the in-depth look of aim training from the low to the top of the ladder. Buckle up, because the first chapter we're going to talk about is the benefits of aim training, especially if you're brand new to mouse and keyboard. Whether you're brand new to mouse and keyboard or even possibly transitioning to mouse and keyboard from, let's just say, a controller, there are a lot of benefits from aim training early on. Now, I think one of the most important benefits of this is just improving your overall mouse control. Because when you're first getting into mouse and keyboard, it's going to feel very alien-like at first, especially if you're transitioning from controller. Aim training scenarios can absolutely help enhance your mouse control, your precision, and accuracy, which arguably are the most crucial skills to have good aim in FPS titles. And take it from someone who responded to my tweet. For someone like me, though, who just recently picked up mouse and keyboard but already has a lot of game reps on controller, I would not be half as good as I am on mouse and keyboard if I didn't aim train. On top of improving your mouse control, you're going to be working a lot on enhancing your reaction time, which a lot of people don't even think about with aim training. especially if you're coming from controller where you were more than likely utilizing rotational aim assist, which starts tracking players with no delay. You're going to have to do that based off your own reaction time. So aim training scenarios can absolutely lead to improvements in reaction time, allowing you to respond more quickly to in-game scenarios. And on top of the benefits that I've already mentioned, another clear benefit to aim training early on within your mouse and keyboard journey is the confidence boost you'll receive. I remember aim training for the first time and watching my scores go up day after day after day. That is an amazing confidence boost that will carry over to your in-game performance. If you're not feeling confident with your aim, you're not going to be performing to your best ability within any game, to be honest. And to further defend my claims that I've mentioned so far, here's another reply to the tweet. Since I finally started aim training in Kovacs, my tracking and reaction time improved a lot in Call of Duty. KD went up too. So far, I love the process and the results. So there are a lot of early benefits to aim training that you can definitely see within FPS titles. So to answer a question you might have been thinking of, is aim training necessary for new players? I would say so. Aim training at an early level definitely establishes some key points and key skills that you will need whatever game you're playing. But some of you watching might not be new to mouse and keyboard. Maybe you have been on this input for a while, you have been aim training, but you have noticed a plateau in your performance. Personally, this is something I struggled with as well. I got really good at target switching and I was amazing at it. But I knew something within my aiming was lacking and I needed to figure out what it was and how I can complement aim training with my in-game performance. So in this chapter, we're going to talk about integration and strategies with aim training into gameplay. Pretty sophisticated title, if I do say so myself. But in all seriousness, one of the areas I noticed that I was really lacking in was tracking. I never got in-game scenarios of tracking, long range, up close, smooth tracking, reactive tracking, so on and so forth. I was really just target switching, and that was basically it. It took me a little bit to really identify what my strengths were and what my weaknesses were. But once I figured out that, yes, my target switching is pretty good, but my tracking was ass, this is where I really started to train my aim. Utilizing both in-game techniques and aim trainers, I was able to practice all different angles of aiming. And it really depends on what game you're playing. Some games like Counter-Strike have built-in workshop maps to solely focus on your aim training. Same thing with Apex Legends, where there is a third-party R5 warm-up. Instead of just playing Deathmatch or Battle Royale, you can actually go into a simulated Apex lobby and aim train. Unfortunately, games like Call of Duty only have private match, nothing to really train your aim. And if you're playing a game and you can utilize an in-game aim trainer, I feel like that is one of the best things you could do for yourself. And many others did as well, like this quote right here. If the game has an in-game aim trainer that's decent, like Fortnite or CS, always use the in-game trainers to warm up, which makes sense. If you want to be good at Apex Legends and Apex Legends has an aim trainer, obviously use that. But on the flip side of the coin, for games like Call of Duty with no great aim training implementation, Kovacs or AimLab can work wonders. It did for me when I played a couple years back. He said a cuppa, but I'm going to say a couple to grammatically correct that. And one of the things I used to do was I would go into Call of Duty private match and practice my target switching against bots. I have a whole separate video on how I set up my private matches, and I'll link it in the description below if you are a Call of Duty / Warzone based mouse and keyboard player. But then I would also utilize AimLab to practice the tracking scenarios I was not able to simulate within private match. And when I got the settings correctly, I was able to practice all different aspects of aiming in-game and externally on the aim trainer itself. And from my personal perspective, this is exactly what I needed to move past that plateau that I hit. I started seeing a lot of improvements within my tracking, especially in Warzone. I think one of my favorite scenarios is the RA Easy Glider scenario where you're tracking a little ball falling out of the sky. I got to see firsthand the improvements from aim training and AimLab to going into Warzone and tracking players out of the sky. Because I utilize AimLab on the outside to practice scenarios I couldn't replicate for Warzone, it tremendously helped me elevate my gameplay to the next level, especially my aim. And to further support my claim, here's another quote from the tweet itself. I think aim training comes after you know the game you are playing quite well. After that, the training helps solidify the skills you need. So the key takeaways for this chapter. If you're struggling hitting a plateau and you can't utilize in-game aim trainers, it's best to really focus and analyze what aspects of your aim are struggling so you can implement those scenarios within AimLab or Kovacs. However, if you are able to analyze your aim and replicate scenarios inside of the game you're playing in an aim trainer or a third-party application like R5 for Apex Legends, that also might be your best bet. So for this chapter, it really depends on the game you're playing. But regardless, if you've hit a plateau and you're analyzing your aim and you realize that, oh man, my target switching is not good or my tracking could be smoother, utilizing AimLab, Kovacs, or even an in-game aim trainer can help you move past this plateau and still see improvements moving into the future. I'm going to address a question that you might have already been thinking of. And by the way, if you've made it this far in today's video, make sure you drop a like. I really do appreciate you guys hanging out and listening to what I have to say about this topic and hearing what others have to say as well. If there are obviously benefits from aim training early on, and there are also benefits from aim training when you've hit a plateau, why don't I just spend more time in aim trainers than in-game? Well, you could. You could absolutely spend hours and hours playing different AimLab or Kovac scenarios, reactive tracking, reactive target switching, two tracking, all these crazy fast and crazy just scenarios in general that will definitely challenge your overall aiming capabilities. And yes, you might actually develop some raw skills that a lot of players don't have. But the real question is developing all these raw skills from these insane scenarios going to help benefit you within an FPS game? It depends. For example, if you're playing Call of Duty, you're not going to need to know how to track a player falling from the sky, bouncing off the floor, and flying right back into the sky like the finals. You're not going to need the reactive tracking of a ball flying across your screen because, well, Call of Duty's not that type of game. It's not like Apex Legends where someone's super gliding off of a box. However, going for high scores and trying to break into the top 100 in a scenario on AimLab can help you adjust those micro movements that you haven't noticed within a game. For example, when you're target switching from player to player, if you're trying to target switch as fast as possible in AimLab from target to target, you're going to really focus on those micro adjustments because we all lack consistency in certain situations. What really sets apart a good aimer from a great aimer is those micro adjustments, or how fast can one correct their mistakes. And yes, hours and hours of those crazy scenarios can help you really tone in those micro adjustments in correcting your target switching or even your tracking. And with this clip you see on the screen, I originally was shooting behind the player model's head, but I was able to micro adjust my aim and track his head perfectly. And this is what I was talking about. What makes a good aimer a great aimer? Being able to understand that I'm shooting behind the enemy's head and micro adjusting my crosshair to be on target and not missing a bullet within my tracking. Little flex, but you know, supports my claim. Because yes, some of these scenarios you play won't carry over to the FPS title you want to improve your aim on. However, they are strengthening the basic fundamentals of aiming. The basic fundamentals are target switching and tracking. You might not need these crazy, fast, sophisticated scenarios that won't replicate itself in any FPS title, but it's almost like honing a knife. You can get a knife as sharp as possible, but even after sharpening that knife until it's a razor blade sharp, you still need to go back and polish to refine that edge. The same thing can be said about aiming. You can sharpen your aim until it's perfect, but you're still gonna have to go back and polish out the imperfections. Because the goal of aim training and trying to get your aim up in any game really is being able to stay consistent within your aiming, being able to target switch consistently on target, not overshooting or undershooting, or being able to track a player smoothly and not falling short or going too fast. These are the areas of aim training that really set apart the good from the best. But really the question of, should I be aim training more than playing in-game? No. In fact, most of the people that replied to my tweet had this to say, and I'm not even going to read all these quotes, but basically, the community though overall agreed that the in-game repetitions are way more important than practicing in an aim trainer. I don't think that you should be spending thousands of hours in an aim trainer and only spending an hour playing your FPS title. If anything, it should be flipped. You should be learning and understanding all the mechanics of the game you want to be really good at, and taking the analysis of that game and really focusing in and specializing in an aim trainer what you can improve on. It's a little bit different than what we talked about before, because what we talked about before was noticing weak points in your aim. At this stage in the game, your aim's pretty solid. You know how to track, you know how to target switch. You might even know how to target switch into a tracking scenario and so on and so forth. But honing down the consistency factor in your aim is where you're going to set yourself apart from other players. How fast can I adjust back on target after overshooting? How fast can I readjust my tracking to be on target and not over or undershooting? And a lot of people say once you get really good at a video game, aim training becomes not necessary. And I have to disagree. Because we all can improve no matter what. Consistency can always be improved on. It just takes special analysis and special understanding of the game you're playing, the aiming mechanics you normally use, and where you can improve consistency. So I think the time has come to reinstate the original question of why this video even exists. Is aim training necessary to establish good aim in an FPS title? And well, it really depends on who you are as a player. Recently, Shroud came out to the community saying he only has a couple hours in aim training. But some people have thousands of hours in aim training, and they do have insane aim in-game. It really comes down to the person you are. I believe that supplementing aim training within your in-game training as well is probably the key way to establish fantastic aim. Understanding a game's mechanics, improving your aim within that FPS title, but then taking your weaknesses out and practicing them in an aim trainer because you can't simulate it within the game you're trying to improve at, has clear beneficial help in improving your aim. In my personal preference, I've always aim trained in the game and taken my areas of improvement outside of the game where I couldn't simulate it. And from there, I was able to establish the fundamentals and even hone in on some of my key skills. I'm not the best in the world, and I'll never will be the best in the world, but I can at least say my aim is pretty damn good. And let me know down in the comments as well, what are you doing to improve your aim? Are you spending hundreds of thousands of hours in aim trainers, or have you not even touched them? Let me know, because I really am interested in this topic still, and it's amazing to see the skill in the communities we have. Some people are just so good at mouse and keyboard, but some people need tons of training to become good. And I think this quote really summarizes the entire input. In the end, it all comes down to personal preference. Some swear by aim training, while others believe in the power of in-game practice. Ultimately, finding the right balance between the two is key, which is probably what most of you guys were thinking at the beginning of this video. So I'm sorry to repeat exactly what you were thinking, but it's absolutely true. I'm at a point right now with my aim where I don't need to spend hundreds of hours in aim trainers. I just enjoy playing the games that I enjoy to play. But of course, I still try to improve where I can. With that being said, hopefully you learned something new. Hopefully I gave you insight to a question that was boggling your mind. And I really do appreciate you guys watching today's video. This was a long project for me to make, and I'm very happy with how it turned out. And if you haven't yet, please leave a like, comment down below how much you aim train. And if you are new and you enjoy the mouse and keyboard content and you want to learn more about the input and have more insights like this, consider hitting that subscribe button. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.